I massively apologise for how awful they are, because obviously you make these voice notes and you never expect anyone to hear them, but now they're on a podcast, so that's cool. We were really open to the idea of other producers being involved, but what we found in songwriting for other people during lockdown was, obviously people were really keen to get back to work and to do sessions, but just the technology of two people running a session at the same time with delays just made it a bit of a nightmare and took away any grain of spontaneity and creativity that existed. Tried it a couple of times, but just with a lag, it's hard. There's so much in writing a song with someone, of with a band or with whoever, of being in the room and, it's reading body language and seeing like if something you've done excites someone. They might not say it out loud, but like there's so much in that, obviously, not to mention just jamming at the same time without a delay. Yeah. And singing over someone else's chords or someone singing over yours, like all of the kind of magic that comes in, to use a very cheesy word, that comes with being in a room with someone and making music, that's just kind of dissipates when you're trying to do production. But I did a session with a guy called Dan Wilson, who is like an amazing songwriter from what was the band that he was in? Semisonic. But like that was just because I'd met him before, and the opportunity came up, and I was suddenly up for writing with these amazing songwriters. And in it, I'd kind of had this idea of a song and known what I wanted to write about, and had done a bit of prep. And I'm quite lazy, so I rarely do prep, but I'd done a bit. And we decided in the session for it to mean I was just going to play piano and he was just going to play guitar. And although it was down Zoom, and obviously no one wants to be on Zoom for any longer than they absolutely have to be, it was the closest thing to being in a room with someone that I'd experienced. Like, it still didn't work with him playing chords and me singing over the top, but it kind of worked, and we actually got a song out of it that's maybe one of my favourite songs that we've done kind of as a band, that's not on this album but will be at some point in the future. And equally, when we wrote it, he was really disciplined and was like, you're not leaving until every little bit of it's done. But we never recorded it, so it kind of existed ephemerally for a while, which is unusual for us, because normally I'm sort of writing and recording at the same time and we're bouncing stuff back and forward, Mark and I. Anyway, that sort of taught me that there is a way to do this over lockdown, and there is a way to do it if you take away the production element and it's just about the song, which
I think
obviously
it's actually worked out. I think a lot of people have come to that conclusion through this period. Generally, it's easier if you've already met, so you haven't got to do the weird sort of small talk at the start of a Zoom thing. And also, it's actually quite nice, even though it's obviously over Zoom and it's technology based. It's kind of going back to an old fashioned, look, you play the guitar and I'll sing, or vice versa, or whatever, and let's just get the song. And then at the end of this, one of us will just put it down as a voice note or whatever. And then if the song's good, we might move forward with it.
Having seen that with Dan, it then opened that door. It was suddenly went from, oh, Mark and I and the people who are in town are going to make this album, to, well, we'll obviously make it here, but the option to start, the genesis of a song and to develop the song itself, which is, to me, the most important thing, like with other people who are in other countries, that now does exist in a way that I'm comfortable with and I'm excited by. Yeah.
And actually looking at, pre-pandemic, the amount of people, other artists I'd have coming in, and they'd just get back from a 8-week stint in LA and they'd be really down because they didn't feel like they got anything good. And there is something to be said for hopping on Zoom. There's so much less pressure than putting your hand in your pocket and paying for a plane ticket and putting all that pressure on going over there. So actually, I think during lockdown, a lot of people have got some great songs on Zoom sessions.
It would be great to hear something from these sessions, these productive sessions with Brahmi.
So, they will sound like absolute dog shit, sorry. But I think I have like so Thelma and Louise, we had another song that was kind of about Thelma and Louise, and I just was really, having rewatched the film and growing up as a bit of a sort of like film obsessive, it's obviously a kind of modern classic. It's this feminist like masterpiece. It's interesting, and in thinking about ideas of escapism and what became with the album about kind of escaping via technology into the future or whatever. I just really had this thing about wanting to write this song, but I don't know if I quite crowbarred that in at this point. So there's just a lot of me mumbling, and I think in some of these you can hear I've got some voice notes basically from the session and from afterwards. And I can just play a few if you want. I massively apologise for how awful they are, because obviously you make these voice notes and you never expect anyone to hear them, but now they're on a podcast, so that's cool. I think I could be a Thelma, you could be my... Okay, so I found a voice note from like probably in the middle of the night one night of me just singing a Thelma and Louise thing, and then I started writing this song with Rami, which I think was called Nowadays at the time. Every day, every night, the force is a way, of course. He'd shut up, Dan. He'd come up with this riff, this kind of policey riff, because we'd done some tunes before for other people, but one of them had this kind of like police feel to it in the guitar, and we sort of had the idea that maybe that could be an interesting direction to sort of do like a futuristic version of the sort of percussive guitar playing of the Police, who aren't a band that I've ever been massively into, but that sound is so like specific. So basically when I got on this call with Rami, was like, right, can we write some more in that vein? And he had the electric guitar up with that kind of very specific sound, and that's where these things came from. And then I can't remember what's what here, so sorry, they're all a bit.
Some days I wanna Thelma and Louise, some days I wanna get back on my feet.
Just like shit mumble lyrics.
Nowadays, some days I wanna Thelma and Louise, some days I wanna...
Blech. Anyway, but that's, you can hear like the sort of the chorus kind of coming together, and what was this here?
Nowadays I wanna Thelma and Louise. Nowadays.
And this was like me and him over Zoom, trying to, like, he's playing guitar there, I'm trying to sing over it. We were sending each other voice notes back and forth. And then I remember the last bit of it to come was the sort of...
Can you hear the sound of my heart exploding? Can you see the sound of my heart exploding?
See the sound of my heart exploding? That makes sense, right? Just the amount of like mumble crap that comes out of your mouth when you're writing a song is quite spectacular if you're me. Anyway, so yeah, I guess that's kind of the way often it works. It's weird to have it digitized, but the you know, traditionally I guess you'd be feeling your way around a song on a piano or on a guitar, and I happen to have the embarrassing artifacts of that.